All right, so you're prepping for a solar power plant operator interview, huh? And you want to walk in feeling confident and ready to impress. Well, today we're diving deep into RoleCatcher's resources to help you do just that.
Yeah, and what's really exciting is that we're not just talking about generic interview tips. We're going to get super specific on how to answer common solar power plant operator interview questions.
Okay, so let's break this down. Could you start by giving us a quick overview of what a solar power plant operator actually does on a daily basis? What's a typical day like for them?
You can kind of think of them like the conductors of an orchestra, but instead of instruments, they're managing the complex systems of a solar power plant. Monitoring equipment, troubleshooting issues, routine maintenance, making sure everything is safe, all to keep that clean energy flowing.
Got it. So it's a mix of technical expertise and being able to stay calm under pressure.
Yeah.
Before we get to those interview questions, you mentioned AI can be a game changer in terms of tailoring answers. How does that work exactly with RoleCatcher?
It's really neat, actually. A RoleCatcher's AI analyzes job descriptions and then suggests specific ways you can customize your CV and cover letter to really match what each employer is looking for.
That's a huge time saver.
Hmm.
Okay, let's get into those interview questions. I bet, what inspired you to become a solar power plant operator is a common one. It seems pretty straightforward, but how can you make your answer stand out? What are they really looking for?
It all comes down to being genuine and showing your authentic self. Don't just say you're passionate about renewable energy, right? Think about a specific experience that sparked your interest. Maybe a project you worked on, a book that really opened your eyes, or even just witnessing the effects of climate change firsthand. Showing that personal connection really makes your answer come alive.
That's a great point. So, moving on to a more technical question, how about this one? How do you ensure a solar power plant operates at peak efficiency? Where would you even start with a question like that?
This is where you can showcase your technical know-how. Talk about monitoring weather conditions, for example, because that directly impacts how much power you can generate. Also, discuss how you would analyze performance data from all the equipment. You could even mention preventative maintenance routines to keep everything in top shape.
So they're looking for someone who's proactive, not just reactive.
Huh.
Okay, what about safety? How would you approach this question? How do you ensure safety at a solar power plant?
Safety is absolutely paramount, and you need to show that you take it seriously. Mention specific protocols like lockout, tagout procedures when working with electrical systems. You can also highlight your knowledge of personal protective equipment. And don't forget about emphasizing how you'd enforce safety regulations among a team.
It's not just about knowing the rules yourself, it's about creating that culture of safety. All right, now for a tougher one. How do you troubleshoot technical issues at a solar power plant?
Think of this as walking them through your problem-solving process. Start by explaining how you'd gather information, like checking error codes or system logs. Then, discuss how you would analyze that data to try and pinpoint the root cause. Finally, outline the steps you'd take to fix it, emphasizing the importance of testing and making sure it's really fixed.
So they're looking for someone methodical, someone who has a clear process, not just someone who's going to randomly start flipping switches. What about questions about your experience, like describe your experience with solar power plant maintenance?
This is your time to shine. Go into detail about your involvement in preventative and corrective maintenance. You can mention specific tasks like inspections, calibrations, replacing components, and if you have any certifications or training, definitely bring those up.
And don't forget, tailor your answer to that specific job description. RoleCatcher's AI could be a huge help with that. Now, what about data? I bet, how do you monitor and analyze solar power plant performance data? Comes up pretty often.
You're absolutely right. Here, you want to focus on your data analysis skills. Mention key performance indicators like the total energy output or overall system efficiency. You could also talk about using data visualization tools or maybe even statistical analysis to spot trends and identify potential issues.
Like a detective for solar power. Okay, here's a crucial one. How do you ensure compliance with all relevant regulations and permits? What would you suggest focusing on there?
It's all about showing you understand the regulations in the bigger picture. Be prepared to discuss specific rules like environmental permits or maybe grid interconnection requirements. You could explain how you stay up to date on changes in regulations and implement procedures to keep the plant in compliance.
Okay, what if they ask about your installation experience? Like, describe your experience with solar power plant installations.
This is your chance to highlight those project management skills. Talk about site assessments, system design, working with contractors, and how you've overcome challenges during installations. If you've worked on specific projects that were large or complex, definitely mention those.
Okay, final question for this round. How do you manage and lead a team of solar power plant operators? This one's for those aiming for a leadership role, right?
Right. It's all about showing you can motivate and guide a team effectively. Discuss your approach to delegation, how you handle performance management, resolve conflicts, and build a strong team spirit. And don't just tell them, give specific examples of how you've successfully led teams in the past.
So showcasing your leadership style and how you create a positive work environment. That was an awesome overview of some common interview questions.
And remember, this is just the beginning. Use these insights as a framework and then really tailor your responses to each specific job description and company culture. So now that we've talked about some of those common interview questions you might face, let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about the career path itself. You mentioned earlier that the solar energy sector is booming right now. Can you give us a bit more insight into what the growth potential is like for solar power plant operators?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just look at the numbers. The solar energy sector is expected to grow something like over 20% in the next decade. That translates to thousands and thousands of new jobs, which means high demand for skilled operators. And obviously that means great potential for you to move up in your career.
Wow, 20%. That's impressive. So where should someone even begin? What advice would you give someone who is just starting out in this field? What are some good first steps?
The most important thing, hands-on experience. Definitely look for internships or apprenticeships with solar companies. Even volunteering on small-scale solar projects can make a huge difference. It all adds up. It's all about building those practical skills, getting your hands dirty, and showing those potential employers that you're serious about this career.
That's really practical advice, and I think RoleCatcher's Career Stages tool can be super helpful for actually visualizing that career path, right? Seeing what's possible.
Exactly. It breaks down the typical roles you'll find in the field, from entry-level all the way up to senior positions. And it even includes real-world profiles of people at each stage, so you can see how folks have actually progressed in their careers.
I like that. So let's dive into those stages a bit. What does an entry-level solar power plant operator typically do? What are some of their responsibilities?
Okay, so at the entry level, you'd probably be assisting those more experienced operators. Think of it as a learning phase, where you're getting familiar with the equipment, the monitoring systems, doing those routine inspections, really just getting a feel for the day-to-day operations.
Okay, so it's a great opportunity to build that solid foundation. What about the next step? The junior solar power plant operator. What does that look like?
As a junior operator, you start taking on more responsibility. You'd be operating and maintaining some of the equipment, analyzing data, troubleshooting those minor issues, and working really closely with those senior operators to make sure everything is running smoothly.
So you're getting more hands-on experience and starting to become more independent. What does it take to reach that mid-level stage?
The mid-level operators, those are like the backbone of the plant.
Yeah.
They oversee the equipment operation and all that maintenance. They analyze that data to see how things can be improved, and they also develop those maintenance schedules. Plus, they handle the troubleshooting of those more complex issues, and of course, they make sure everything is complying with all the safety regulations.
It sounds like a pretty demanding but also super rewarding role. Now, what about the senior solar power plant operator? What are some of the qualities that really set them apart?
Senior operators, they're the leaders. Think of them as like captains of the ship. They're overseeing the entire operation, coming up with strategies to get the best performance out of the plant, managing teams of operators and technicians, ensuring that they're meeting all those regulations, and even collaborating with management on budgets and long-term planning.
Wow, that's impressive. It's really inspiring to see how someone can progress through their career, starting from entry level all the way to those senior positions. RoleCatcher also highlights how important continuous learning is and the value of getting certifications. Can you talk a bit more about that?
Oh, absolutely. This industry is always evolving, so continuous learning is essential to stay ahead of the game. You want to keep up with those industry regulations and the best practices. You can do that through webinars, workshops, continuing education courses, and certifications, things like the Certified Photovoltaic Systems Installer or the Certified Energy Manager. Those can really boost your credibility and open doors to new opportunities.
So it's really about showing that commitment to professional development and making sure you're on top of the latest advancements, right? Now, let's go back to RoleCatcher's AI for a moment. How can it help job seekers beyond just tailoring those resumes and cover letters?
Remember those 120,000 practice interview questions I mentioned? Well, RoleCatcher's AI analyzes your practice responses and gives you personalized feedback. It helps you refine your communication skills so you can really nail those tough questions.
That's fantastic. So it's not just about giving you the right answers, it's about helping you deliver them with confidence and clarity so you really shine during the interview.
You got it. RoleCatcher's AI really takes interview preparation to a whole new level. You walk in feeling so much more confident and prepared.
This is all great information. But let's be realistic for a moment. Finding a job can still be really tough, even in a booming industry like solar energy. Are there any tips that RoleCatcher offers for navigating that job search process effectively?
RoleCatcher really emphasizes strategic planning. It's not just about applying to every open position you find, right? It's about identifying companies that align with your values, targeting roles that are a good fit for your skills, and crafting a compelling narrative that really showcases what makes you unique. It's about telling your story.
That makes so much sense. Being proactive and taking control of your job search. Does RoleCatcher have any specific tools to help with this strategic approach?
You bet. They have a job search planner that helps you define your goals, research those companies you're interested in, explore related fields, and even track your progress.
So it's not just about finding any job, it's about finding the right job for you. Now let's talk about networking. You know what they say. It's not always about what you know, but who you know. How can RoleCatcher help job seekers build their network and really leverage those connections?
RoleCatcher has a cool networking tool that helps you import, organize, and optimize your contacts. It's not just about collecting business cards or sending those generic LinkedIn requests. It's about building genuine relationships with people in your field, going to industry events, and having those meaningful conversations.
So it's a way to expand your reach, right? And maybe tap into some hidden job opportunities that aren't even posted online.
Exactly. RoleCatcher even has a feature that lets you connect with people who work at specific companies you're interested in. It's like having an inside track.
Wow, this is all incredibly valuable information. We've covered a lot today: interview preparation, those career paths, how you can use AI to boost your job search. What are some key takeaways you'd like our listeners to remember from today's deep dive?
I think the biggest thing is to approach this field with your eyes wide open. It's a challenging but super rewarding path. Be prepared to work hard, continuously learn, and embrace that opportunity to make a real difference.
That's a great point. But wait, there's more. RoleCatcher also has some interesting insights into specific aspects of this job that are often overlooked.
Ooh, I'm intrigued. Let's uncover those hidden gems. Let's explore those and see what other valuable insights we can uncover. All right, so let's uncover those hidden gems you mentioned. What are some of those often overlooked aspects of the solar power plant operator job that maybe candidates should be aware of going in?
One thing that catches some folks off guard is how much physical work can be involved. Yeah, you do a lot of monitoring and data analysis, but you're going to be on your feet, working outside in all kinds of weather, and there's a chance you'll be handling heavy equipment.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's definitely not just a desk job. So how about the schedule? What's that like? Is it the typical 9 to 5?
Not always, no. Solar power plants operate 247, so shift work is pretty common. Weekends, holidays, you name it. You might even be on call in case of emergencies, so flexibility is a must.
It sounds like it takes a certain kind of dedication and being okay with things changing. Now, what about potential hazards? We talked about safety protocols, but are there any specific risks tied to working in a solar power plant?
Anytime you're working with high voltage equipment, there's some risk involved, but with the right training and following those safety procedures, you can minimize those risks. And of course, you could be exposed to extreme temperatures, all sorts of weather conditions, so being prepared for that is important.
It's a job that really calls for both physical and mental toughness. Okay, but let's shift to the positive side, the rewards. We've talked about the booming industry, the career growth potential, but what about those intrinsic rewards, the things that make this job fulfilling on a personal level?
For a lot of people, knowing that they're contributing to a cleaner future, a more sustainable world, that's a huge motivator. There's a sense of purpose, of pride in harnessing that renewable energy and lessening our dependence on those fossil fuels.
It goes beyond just a job. It becomes something more, like a mission. And as the renewable energy sector grows, that impact is only going to get bigger.
Exactly. Plus, down the line, you could specialize in certain areas of solar technology, move into management, maybe even contribute to research and development.
So many possibilities. Wow, this has been an incredible deep dive. We've covered so much from what the job is all about to acing those interview questions and exploring all those career paths. If you could leave our listener with just one key takeaway from today, what would it be?
I'd say the most important thing is to go into this field with your eyes wide open. It's a challenging but rewarding path. Be ready to work hard, never stop learning, and really embrace that chance to make a real difference.
That's perfect. So to our listener out there who's prepping for that solar power plant operator interview, remember, you got this.
Yeah.
Use the resources we talked about, let your passion and skills shine, and you'll be amazing.